Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome along to the Liverpool Daily News on the Blood Red channel with myself, Patrick Smith, and I'm joined today by Ben Bocsak to talk through the latest Liverpool FC news. We've got two topics for you today. We're going to begin with the first one, which revolves around Naby Keita, the one everyone loves talking about. I'm sure you're going to love talking about in the comments as well. According to German news outlet Bild, Naby Keita is reportedly refusing to negotiate with Liverpool over a new contract until the January transfer window. Now, this poses a problem because with foreign clubs, they can negotiate pre-contract agreements with Liverpool to sign Keita on a free transfer at the end of the season. Ben, is this something that Liverpool should be really concerned about, and is something that could perhaps kick them into gear on the Keita situation?
I mean, I don't think so. I think that it already feels like they're kind of set on losing Keita, and if they do, is Keita really that much of a loss in terms of a financial investment? Absolutely. Liverpool invested heavily in him, not just the initial transfer fee, but sort of trying to get him back into shape every season. It's been a lot of investment, but in terms of on the pitch, yes, Keita has been impressive on a few occasions. He's had good form, some purple patches here and there, but on the whole, he's never really been available for Liverpool, and he's been just a squad player really. So I think it's not necessarily that much of a loss. Of course, now when you compound that with all the other players who could potentially be leaving next summer, James Milner, for example, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and the fact that Liverpool really needed midfielders this summer already. So in that sense, he is a loss, and it does leave Liverpool probably needing at least two, if not three, maybe midfielders next summer.
I mean, that's the main cause of concern for Liverpool fans of old. I think the majority of the fan base now, I know it completely divides the fan base down the middle, Naby Keita, but I think the majority now probably would want to see him go. But there's just that concern around the numbers in midfield. And we don't want to be in a situation really where Liverpool have to sign three or four midfielders next summer, do we?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want that, and obviously you have some of the younger players coming up, the likes of Harvey Elliott, who could potentially fill that void, and we've seen Elliott do well. Still question marks over his defensive ability, but he's young, and of course he can improve that side of his game. He's got plenty of time to do it. But yeah, it is a concern, the amount of legs that Liverpool would be losing next summer if no one extends their contract. And I think with Naby, it seems more likely for him to leave rather than for him to stay at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way things are looking on. We've got some comments here. Kumar saying, I don't think we should give him a new contract. I don't know why Klopp is fixated on Naby, perhaps a link from the German league or something. And Peter as well mentioning here how Keita's basically been unreliable and he hasn't been anywhere near his form in Germany. Well, speaking of that, Ben, where would be the best place for Naby to go? Do you think it would be a move back to perhaps Leipzig or the Bundesliga is the best way for him to go? Or maybe a complete change of league? There's been mentions of Juventus in the past.
I mean, we're going to talk about him later, but I think he could do well at Borussia Dortmund as a Jude Bellingham replacement. I think he is that box to box type of player, and I think obviously he knows the Bundesliga inside and out. He's played there for a couple of seasons and he's done very well there, and maybe that would be the best destination for him, or like you said, even a return to Leipzig. But I could see Dortmund going for him.
I mean, that certainly could be a nice little sweetener for Liverpool. I mean, just still navigate the division in the fan base is clear to see in our comments. Bruce here, lack of Liverpool's transfer business is compounding their already desperate midfield situation. This is a player they should not be trying to tie down, but the situation is complicated. That exactly sums it up because it may not be the player that Klopp and Liverpool want to keep, but they may have to keep in terms of numbers. But Ben, you nicely alluded to the next question there on Jude Bellingham. We're going to have to talk about him again because last night, an absolutely amazing display from him, captaining Borussia Dortmund, the third youngest player, I think, to ever captain a Champions League side. His numbers are just astounding this season, aren't they?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable that he's got such a maturity about him to be captaining at such a big side in the Champions League, against a Sevilla side who have been struggling, but they're still a tough opponent. And I think he's sort of thrived on that pressure sort of put in him. He was probably Dortmund's best player on the night. And the fact that he has scored in the first 3 Champions League games in the group stages, that puts him on par with Erling Haaland, who was the youngest ever player to do it. Jude is now the second one, and who knows where he will end up, whether he will follow Haaland's path to Manchester City or whether it will be at Anfield where he ends up. It's going to be a fascinating watch, and I think last night just confirmed it, that wherever he goes, whoever gets him will have to pay a lot of money, a lot of money to get him.
Special time. I mean, Sevilla is by no means an easy place to go. They have been struggling of late. Lopetegui obviously losing his job on that note. But with Jude Bellingham playing so well, but particularly this season, is that a cause for concern for Liverpool? Because his price tag is surely going to rise. I mean, £130 million, he's probably playing at the level of a player worth that money. But it's going to rise because he's a young English midfielder. And who knows, if he has a good World Cup as well, then it could be a situation where you're needing to pay $200 million for him in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, it is concerning. Thankfully, I don't know about you, but I'm not too optimistic about England's chances at the World Cup, so I'm not too concerned about his performances in the World Cup. I feel like could be an early blowout for England. So at least Liverpool, I think, will take solace from that there's not that much of a danger of England doing well at the tournament. But for Dortmund, he's been incredible. And if he keeps going like this, then yeah, I think sooner or later there is a danger that he will be sort of out of Liverpool's price range, especially when we talked about earlier how Liverpool probably need at least 2, maybe 3 midfielders next summer. And if we're in that situation where we need 2 or 3 midfielders, you can't just splash all the cash on Jude Bellingham and then not really have the funds left to bring in other players.
That's the exact problem as well, Ben, because it's not just the problem of Bellingham playing so well, it's the problem that Liverpool aren't playing very well, and they're a much less attractive side to sign for. At the end of last season, it was probably a very attractive offer to look to sign for Liverpool. Who knows what could be the situation come maybe even January, let alone the end of the season. Is there a risk here that Liverpool perhaps put themselves out of the race for Bellingham?
I think, let's be honest, I think even if Liverpool played well and did well, just because of the money that we're talking about, it was always going to be difficult for Liverpool to win this race. If you look at Liverpool spending after winning the Champions League, after winning the Premier League, it wasn't that hefty compared to the other Premier League sides. So I think there's always a danger in terms of the monetary aspect of it. But I think with Bellingham, the hope is that he isn't necessarily just concerned about the money side of things. He wants to join a project that he believes in. He wants, I think he appreciates the fans at Dortmund, and he really likes playing in big atmospheres and good atmospheres as well. And I think in that sense, sure, like some of the other rivals who would be interested in Bellingham, the likes of Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City, Liverpool do have an advantage in that sense over them.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really interesting to see how it all plays out. Obviously, Naby Keita's contract is set to expire, so maybe he's being saved as that sweetener for the Jude Bellingham deal. But all will be revealed over the course of the next year, and that's all we've got time for today on the Daily News. Thank you very much for joining myself, Patrick Smith and Ben Bocsak. Be sure to keep up to date with all the articles going out today on the Liverpool.com site, and of course, keep up to date with the Blood Red channel. But for now, thank you very much for joining us, and goodbye.